Do I own 3 residences? Yeah, I do. I live here in Burlington, Vermont. We live in a middle-class neighborhood. Nice house. Guess what? I'm a United States Senator, and I own a home in Washington, D.C., as do most senators. You know, you live there year after year. When I first went to, actually, when I was in Congress for 16 years, I rented all the time. But I got elected. Okay, you got a 6-year term. You know what? Let's buy a house. So we bought a house. And guess what? Like many thousands of people in the state of Vermont, I have a summer camp. It's a nice one on Lake Champlain. That's it. Do I own?
Oh, man. Must be nice to be the king. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Oh, no kings. No kings. Or as Andrew Ryan from the great Ayn Randian lampoon game BioShock says, no gods, no kings, only man. And Elon Musk has been retweeting it this morning. Anybody play BioShock? Speaking of, were you with us Friday night on the Freedom Arcade? Because if you weren't, you missed out, man. Friday night was an awesome stream. I think we went like 3 hours, and we had an absolute blast. We invited everybody into the Discord, the chat who wanted to play. We were playing games with people who were with us. Probably the most successful gaming stream that we had so far. So thanks to everybody who was there. And if you missed out, you missed it this week too, because I'm going to be out of town. Probably Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because I'm going to Boonville, Missouri, baby. And it's going to be a lot of work because we're producing. This is the biggest production that I have overseen in a long time. A documentary of the Battle of Athens. Incredible 3 days set up. Hard work. And Joel Lettermore says, I want to support stuff like that. So he gifted a sub in the chat. Thank you very much. Nice to see Pork Chop. It's nice to see BB for Liberty. Steelbringer, Dad Bod Baboon, LW78, Relaxium McGroin. My groin is very relaxed. Andy Opperman's here as well. He's going to join us on Saturday. Joni Rankin. Nice to see everybody. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. So this weekend was the Army's 250th birthday. It's a patriotic celebration of our soldiers, fireworks, tanks, music, military families. And how did the left respond? How did they choose to spend their celebration of the 250th birthday? With nationwide protests screaming, no kings, while dressing up as George Washington and marching around like a Renaissance fair full of student loan debt. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that one. Well, really. Well, nationwide protests were going on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the protests. You can send us text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. Question for listeners: do these people even hear themselves when they chant "No Kings" while demanding more government in every aspect of life? They wanted to rule over us all. We had to have an executive order to allow water to come out of our shower heads at a slightly faster rate, because otherwise, if you had done that before and altered it, it's a federal crime. This is the America that we live in. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the slaves. No kings. No king but Christ, say some. There is a king. God is king. Jesus is king. And meanwhile, Elon Musk is over on X, pissing everybody off and saying, no gods, no kings, only man. But he was just thinking of the game BioShock, so don't hold it against him. Meanwhile, Donald Trump showed up to the parade. He was pleased with the Army parade, which some of the pictures that came out looked awesome, like the demonstrators that we saw recently in Mount Vernon, some of the original military uniforms that we have seen throughout the centuries of the American soldier, which was really inspiring to see, I won't lie.
Tremendous success with a fantastic audience. It was supposed to rain. They gave it a 100% chance of rain, and it didn't rain at all. It was beautiful. And so I asked if they gave it 100% chance, right? 100%. It was going to rain like crazy, and it didn't rain at all. How did they predict 100 years out and 50 years out or 200 years out? They didn't do too well, the weather people, last night, but it was beautiful.
They didn't do too well. Man, Trump's always got a roast for somebody. He's always going to roast somebody. He's just going to roast him, just like we do here. If you enjoy the Wake Up America show, make sure you're clicking that like button. That does help support the show, and it's totally free. If you click the follow button and you're not a regular guest yet, you will be, because you're going to get a notification whenever this show goes live. If you click the follow button over at rumble.com/AP4Liberty, that's the number 4. AP4Liberty. You can find me on every social network as AP4Liberty, except for like Twitch, where we're Stream Liberty. But AP4Liberty over on every channel is where you find me, because you're like, oh, I need more AP in my life. And we do create different content, sometimes for different platforms. Sometimes there are different aspect ratios to make it so you can enjoy. Our Instagram has been popping off lately. All of our social networks have been growing like crazy. Have you guys been seeing the new memes that King Libertarian and the Liberty Tonight boys have been making? It's been good stuff. The 4 Liberty Network grows, especially because when you make those monetary contributions like Steelbringer does, you gift those subs, you make sure that the Wake Up America show is on next month. And don't you want to see the Wake Up America show next month? We just got fiber. Don't you want to see what this fully operational Death Star is capable of? So make sure that you help to unlock the bonus content. What's the bonus content, AP? That's the content that you get to see as a little added bonus. Iffy, you cross my palm with a shekel. The happy merchant gives a little smile. And join us by making a Rumble Rant donation. Austin's going to hell for sure. Rumble Rant donation. Go to heaven for the climate and hell for the company. Right, Mr. President? I'll see you there. With Elon Musk. All the interesting people. Almighty fortress is our God. So you can either drop Rumble Rants or gift subs in the chat to unlock the bonus content. And if we hit $75 raised either in rants or in purchases at 4libertyshop.com. But then by the end of the show, you guys will get to see the bonus content. The bonus content is a 5-minute mini documentary that we produce for fun. And instead of having commercials when I go to my guests, which I will introduce here in just a moment, you guys get to watch, or if you're listening to the audio podcast version later, then you get to listen to the bonus content that we produce. And so far, we have only, I think, failed maybe once we've failed to unlock the bonus content. You guys are super generous, and we ask that you continue to be. Support me and Steffi and baby Hazel. Just had my first Father's Day, and I hope to have many more. Donald Trump showed up to the parade, smiled, waved to military families, salutes veterans, and the media acts like he just rolled down Constitution Avenue wearing a crown made of gold bars and baby formula.
Down through history, we've been blessed beyond words by this valiant legion of Army warriors and patriots, heroes and legends. And tonight we affirm with unwavering certainty that in the years ahead and in every generation hence, whenever duty calls and whatever danger comes, the American soldier will be there.
Okay, but can we try not to have him there in Iran, Mr. President? Our next two guests, starting at 8 a.m. and at 8:30, are, I would probably say, are on either sides of the Israel-Iran conflict as escalations and provocations continue in the battle between Israel and Iran, with the preemptive strike by Israel against nuclear capability of the state of Iran. And Israel has delivered a powerful blow to parts of Iran's nuclear program. How can you not be happy when people who say that they want to kill you are losing the operational capability to kill you? They do chant death to America, of course, but we are going to hear from John Miltimore at 8 a.m. Central Time. He's going to give us the whole, we need to stay out of it, a MAGA America first, but more from a libertarian perspective at 8 a.m. And then we're going to have Ian Howarth, who's going to probably be a little more interventionist on this one, and we'll see which way you feel it out. So the Wake Up America show is going to provide to you two of the opinions. There are lots of other opinions as well on the conflict. It's not just left or right, black or white, binary, but you are going to be able to hear today some differing viewpoints on the conflict between Israel and Iran. So I invite you to stay, hang out for the whole show today. If you have to pick one or the other, you now know that John Miltimore is at 8 a.m. Central Time, is going to be a little bit more anti-war in some ways, and then Ian Howarth is going to be more, you might call it realist. I don't know that I call anybody pro-war unless you're just like freaking Adolf Hitler or something like that. I just think of people as just like, more like, there's going to be a war, it's going to happen, and we're going to fight it, and we're going to win it. But that's kind of how I feel, and if you disagree, guess what? There's a text line at the bottom of the screen. I'm not going to go on some Jimmy Dore-inspired rant of like, the evil babies of the baby-killing baby killers of the babies. And I'm not going to go on, this is a Zionist-occupied government, like Stu Peters, right? And I'm not going to be like, oh, man, mystical. I hope everybody just gets along, and we'll watch Democracy Now!, and democracy will fix everything. Because I'm not gay nor retarded. So you're going to hear Austin Peterson's militant libertarian view. Yes. A non-aggression principle libertarian, the aggression principle libertarian that just tans the hides of many American libertarians, but puts me in good company with people like Javier Milei. Viva la libertad, carajo! Much more realist when it comes to foreign policy. So you're going to hear two different styles of thought. You'll hear my style of thought, and if you don't like it, stick around anyway. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, AP for Liberty. Boy, the Democrats sure are clowns. The shooter at the No Kings protest in Utah was an active participant in the protest. No Kings, so let's kill our own people?
Chief, the 4 people involved, were they shooting at each other, shooting into the crowd? Do you know just how before, did they know each other, Chief?
That is all under investigation right now. It's too early to say.
Why were the other 2 taken into custody?
They were involved.
Involved how?
Well, that's under investigation currently.
Were any of them participating in the protest, or were they just near it?
It appears they were, involved at some level in the protest, or at least in as part of the group that was walking.
The initial suspect that you took into custody that had the gunshot wound, how did he get the gunshot wound?
That's what we're still investigating. It's too early to say right now. I'm sorry. Yes, I should clarify. Officers, as far as we understand at this point, officers were not did not shoot, didn't do any shooting.
Chief, any word or anything on a motive as to why?
Again, it's just so early right now. Fortunately, we have everyone involved in custody, and we're going to be sorting that out. We also had a lot of witnesses, and we're talking with the witnesses as well to see what we can learn.
Chief, it sounds like some of the witnesses helped take this person into custody. Is that accurate, or what was their involvement in helping you track this person down?
Well, they certainly gave us descriptions of a description of the individual, and I don't know at the time he was taken into custody if anyone was involved other than our officers. I'm not sure.
They chase him down or point him out in some way?
Yeah, they gave us a description, our officers.
What a joke, these Democrats. And they're pointing at Trump's military reenactment parade, saying, this is what they do in Russia and in North Korea. Yeah, you know what they don't do in North Korea? They don't protest the parade in North Korea or Russia. They don't live to post about it on Instagram. Yeah. Similar, but it's like that movie where they went to North Korea to kill the dictator, James Franco, and he goes, same, but different. Same, but still same, but different. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Different, but still same, but different, Don't you love the Wake Up America show? Make sure you're clicking that like button as you file in, guys. Don't forget to click follow as well. In Annapolis, Maryland, they had a George Washington impersonator reading the general's resignation speech like it was Hamilton in slow motion. They quoted Washington relinquishing power while trying to use that speech to attack Trump. Meanwhile, it's the left that wants permanent power, unelected bureaucrats, executive orders, censorship boards, environmental socialist governance rules, alphabet agencies. How many inches of shoe leather do you have in your shoe? What are you smoking? How much of it? Can you do it? Can you do it anywhere here? Can you do it in public? Can you do it there? But no kings, no kings, no kings. And some say no gods, but they do have a god, don't they? They worship something, do they not? They do. They worship government. Boo! Some nature. Oh boy. Senator John Fetterman, the lone Democrat with a head injury that has somehow made his brain work, said this parade is comprised of our sons, daughters, mothers, and fathers, the very best of us, regardless of your politics. It's appropriate to celebrate the 250 years of sacrifice, dedication, and service. Amen. Can I confess something to you guys? And I wouldn't say something like this anywhere else other than the Wake Up America show, maybe. But the mood, the vibe is off, right? The vibe in this country is just way off. I know you may say, oh, well, it's been kind of like that for a long time. But I'm just desperate to try and find some like-minded individuals out there. I'm speaking to everybody who's watching this show right now. Lean into the chat or turn up the volume as we have this conversation, because I feel really unsure. But you tell me if you feel as if this vibe shift, which occurred recently, happened when it started on the day of the Liberation Day tariffs, and then it just kind of went downhill from there. And what I mean is, you say, oh, well, the vibe has been off in this country for a while. We've been at each other's throats. But didn't it feel like after Trump's election last November that there was this sort of like mood, and maybe it was just my own mood, but this sort of mood of national jubilation to a large extent. And then a lot of these No Kings protesters were just so defeated, and they were so exhausted they couldn't even talk. They were just pushed aside in the manner of pulling them off the stage with the cane. They were just completely washed away. And most Americans were happy because we wanted the change that Donald Trump's presidency would bring, and the hopes and the promises that were made. A lot of Americans had hopes that maybe at least some of these promises would be fulfilled. I don't know if the majority of the American people really believe in the promises of politicians. I typically absolutely do not. And though I was hopeful and optimistic, it was really just because I expected to get, like, maybe we might get a few scraps here or there. But I really kind of just said, there's definitely a percentage chance where it's going to be, we're going to get absolutely nothing and things are going to be absolute shit under Trump, right? That hasn't happened. There have been some positive moments, but there really felt like for a brief period that there was a sort of a national unity. And maybe it was while Doge was really digging itself in. It was acting like the cyber virus going in and breaking into like all parts, busted down the doors of the government. Federal workers were getting fired. It was just like, yeehaw, yeehaw. Every day I'm just like, ride the horsey, yippee-ki-yay. It was just like I was doing these Fox News hits because I'm out there praising the president and they like that. But then when the tariffs hit, I was like, I got sour. And I thought people, people are battling me over the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. I fought status and tax increasers and economic illiterates for years when it was Democrats. This time, a lot of times you get a lot of Republicans too who are just not big fans of free markets. But whatever. But it felt as if the vibe shifted then. And then now we have this escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. And I'll tell you, a lot of the MAGA base, they're all for tariffs, of course, so they were all mad at me then. But now they're all mad because they don't want to die for Israel, they say. Which I don't see a big chance of happening, but I know every time something happens in the Middle East, they're like, it's World War III, it's World War III. You know what's worse than World War III? Do you know what's worse than World War III? Texas Roadhouse. Austin, what are you talking about? Why would you say something so inoffensive but
It's
yet so true?
and I know I'm going to offend everybody in our audience here by talking shit about America's most famous restaurant, but that is food for people who have no taste. It is just...
Your dad is probably not going to come visit us now because you just said that.
It is so bland. Let me tell you something. If your steak needs mushrooms and onions on top of it, then that's a sign that your steak is terrible.
And you have to pay extra for the mushrooms and onions, and they taste terrible. Usually I push them off.
Yeah, it's awful. It's disgusting. You're so much better off going to any other steakhouse. So it's like, why would you go
What's
to
with
Texas
the random dancing black chicks, AP? What is that?
Roadhouse? Don't go there for steak. You can get a better steak anywhere else.
Bread rolls.
The bread rolls are probably what made us puke, or made us. It wasn't puking. We were puking out our butts.
It was coming from all ends. It was terrible.
Everywhere.
It lasted for like 5 days. I swear.
We ate Texas Roadhouse, and then we had a 2.5-hour drive home from Kansas City, and I had to stop. We thought that we were going to get
a military base.
Yeah, we thought we were going to get arrested by the military police because we pulled into the military base. I've got to go to the bathroom. I want to shit my pants.
You started World War III at the military base. Oh my God. Oh man.
You know what? There are some things that are worse than World War III, and it's Texas Roadhouse's food.
Thankfully, World War III didn't start because they were all at the military parade. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. It's nice to see everybody here today. Has everybody clicked the like button? Yes, I hope you have. We've got a great show for you today. We've got our friend John Miltimore at 8 a.m. Central Time, and at 8:30 this morning, we're going to hear from Ian Howarth, writer for the Washington Examiner, journalist, and we're going to talk about Iran versus Israel. Iran so far away. Now, the same crowd that was shouting over the weekend that Trump is a king also said Trump can't get anything done because of lawsuits. But which is it? Is he an unstoppable dictator or a guy getting bogged down in court filings over the shape of his steak knives? Trump himself said it. I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get anything approved. Meanwhile, Joe Biden signs executive orders like he's speed running government on cheat codes, and no courts are standing in Joe Biden's way. No courts. They just rubber stamp damn near everything.
Donald Trump wants you to believe that dissent is unpatriotic, that protest is un-American. That is a lie. That's what authoritarians try to make you believe. That to stand up for your nation, to stand up for your fellow American, to rise up in dissent, in objection against what a president is doing when they are violating our Constitution, violating our fundamental rights. For me, to be silent in the face of that is un-American. To not speak up is to be...
You know what's really sad is that these selfie videos that they're doing like this, they're actually very effective. Don't shoot the messenger, because if you've been watching any of my social accounts like Instagram or Facebook recently, I've started to do some skits, and those skits have started to go viral. I don't know if you guys saw the one of me and Steffi where it's a liberal, you're on a date with a liberal man, and Stephanie is on camera listening to me as I'm explaining all of, like, you know, giving a land acknowledgement and respecting her femininity, and that I will always ask for her permission before I kiss her. Just being liberal as fuck. So this video went mega viral, but it's just you just put the camera up to your face and record yourself saying something either in earnest or as a skit, as a joke. I think it had like 500,000 views when I checked the other day, so it's definitely going viral. And it's Stephanie who's laughing, but I think like 9 out of 10 people, of course, they have no idea who Stephanie and I are. So they were so convinced by this performance that I was a liberal that they just drove this thing viral. And it's so funny because Stephanie accidentally wore her wedding ring while we shot the sketch. So everybody's pointing out that she's on her first day of the wedding ring. They're like... And like the 10 people in the chat now who know me, because it's not the majority of people that are commenting that know who I am anymore, because now all these reels are going viral. So you'll have like 1 out of 10 people who are like, they're married, it's a skit, but nobody cares. You have like all these like black female rap stars and models that are dropping in the chat like, girl, you better run away, girl. It's like, oh, I would never date a man like that. I'm drier than the Sahara Desert listening to that. So yeah, and you know what's funny is that in the last couple of months, as Brad and I, let's give it up for BB for Liberty. He's the power behind the throne here. No kings, but on the Wake Up America show and on For Liberty Tonight. But Brad's really been cooking with his memes and with he's doing a great job over here, and let's give it up for him for all the hard work he's doing as the associate producer for the documentary shoot, and he's also the props master, which is a big job, just huge job. He's doing such a great job. But as we've been producing these memes and artificial intelligence videos and memes, they have just been doing gangbusters. But the people who are the old school people on the page are like complaining. They're like, "You're a sellout, Austin. Oh, you're selling out. Oh God, Austin used to be good." And I said, I don't want to be good anymore. I want to be famous. I don't want to be good anymore. I want to be rich. Because you know what it is people like, you start to get big and you do something, it's amazing. If you ever do anything amazing in your life, if you ever succeed, there are going to be people who are going to tell you, stop, no, don't do that, right? As soon as you start, and if you listen to them, and God bless my brother Justin, I love him very much, but he has always listened to the haters, the people who like, if you do something unconventional, the first thing that's going to happen is that everybody around you who doesn't wish you well is going to say, no, don't. I don't like it. It's different. It's changed. You've changed, Austin. You've sold out. No. God damn. You expect me to toil in obscurity forever? Hell no. Hell no. We're going up, baby. This elevator goes all the way to the top. We're going to ride our escalator to the bottom and our elevator to the top. What do you say? Escalator. Donald Trump, 10-year anniversary. Down on the escalator. No. What do you say? He's a king? Is he a king? Is he a king?
Hands off! Okay. Hands off! Hands off!
Okay. What does no king mean?
Hands off! Hands off! Okay, I agree. Don't touch her.
Not good! Hands off!
Okay.
Hands off! Hands off!
Lady, you look like you have not had a set of hands in your mouth in for a long time. Look at that right there. What the collective age of these anti-Trump. Look at that. Oh my God. No, lady. Dental hygiene. I feel bad when I forget to brush once. Jeez.
Hands off! Hands off!
Okay, what does no king mean?
I don't want to talk to you.
Why not?
I just don't. Go away.
Why are you on the streets if you don't want to be talked to?
Hey, don't
That's a good question. Why are you out here protesting? What are you protesting for? We don't want to tell you.
I'm not touching you.
Not good. Hands off!
Okay.
Hands off! Hands off!
Okay.
What is it with these leftist, Democrat, toothless boomers with very, very dirty clothing that they wear? I mean, this is the filthiest outfit I have seen in a long time. This is a person who has not cared about hygiene since 1972.
Can you stop putting that in front of him?
And this is why we protest. People
That doesn't
don't have to keep their
matter.
hands off other people.
Wait, would you? Okay, explain that.
No comment.
Wait, so you're standing, and I predicted this when you're in the car.
Look at him. Like you could you know how you know that man's a conservative? Look at that. Hygiene. Notice something? Hygiene. He has hygiene. Look at that coiffed hair. Silver fox. You just know this guy gets it. Don't be gay, AP.
Scott, come here.
No homo, no homo. That's what you say.
So I predicted this when we were in the car.
He probably smells like Dracar Noir.
Ma'am, you need to move
Hey,
so he
mister,
can.
get your hands off me and stop bumping me.
Okay.
Sir,
Sir,
lay
there.
your
Yeah,
hands
call him.
off me. Stop,
Yeah.
stop physically aggressing me. Stop
Physically aggressing me, lady. Nobody wants to touch you, I guarantee. Not the police officer who comes later to pick you guys all up. Not your husband, not his boyfriend or
physically aggressing me, please.
Walk away.
We're trying to record here. We're trying to record
This
here.
man is trying to provoke trouble. Walk away from him. Don't let him do it.
Now, man, all you got to do, you got to give us straw hat wearers a bad rap there.
This man is
Leaning
trying
on me
to
and
provoke
bumping
trouble.
me and
Laying
pushing
on
me.
you,
That's right,
lady.
but don't respond.
You couldn't pay me to lay on top, touch that woman.
This man is trying to provoke trouble.
This is one thing that I predicted was that people would stand on a street corner but then have nothing to say. It's like the weirdest thing.
Honestly, that is weird, but that was a great video there, Benjamin. Thank you for sharing it with us. Yeah, this is a picture from the military parade. We got protests, we got parades. They were wearing the original colonial dress. Let's give it up for our original American patriots, the 1776 boys. Don't they look handsome? Wait, is that a black soldier in the American Revolutionary War dress uniform? Excuse me? No, God. George Washington rolling in his grave. Don't freak out, guys. It's a black man in a uniform. Thank you guys so much for all you've done so far to help unlock the bonus content. It looks like we've raised around $15 to $20 towards the $75 goal, which is not a bad amount by 7:30 in the morning. But it's really hard for me to promote, to remind everybody to drop those Rumble rants or go to forlibertyshop.com and make some purchases. The earrings are probably going to go away. We're going to take them out of our collection. So if you guys had been interested in any of the earrings at all, this is a good day to go ahead and do it. Get those orders in now, because we're probably just going to get rid of the earring collection, just because like the way that we work with that distributor is just, it's not maximally productive for us. And so we're just going to sell out all of the earrings, and then we're just going to work with other suppliers for other things. So if you do like the Liberty earrings, this is kind of your last chance to get them. So, and I mean like last chance as in like today. You better go to forlibertyshop.com this morning and grab yourself a pair of Bomb Pop Popsicle earrings or the Don't Tread on Me snake earrings. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Again, the number 4libertyshop.com. You probably wanted the ice cream earrings or the Rosie the Riveter earrings, or maybe even the honeycomb bomb earrings, libertarian porcupine earrings. We're getting temporarily, at least, we're getting out of the earring business. And so if you did want any of those that you've seen me advertise on this show, probably should go get them. Like Drew Van Runkle, who wanted the Captain America American Shield stud earrings. Then head over to forlibertyshop.com, guys. And during the show, if we hit $75 raised, including in not just Rumble Rants, but in purchases here at forlibertyshop.com, then that will unlock the bonus content, and you get to watch that instead of commercials when we go to our guests 22 minutes from now. What do you say? There we go. There you go. So Liberty Tonight shows in the chat. Make sure you guys are following them as well. Liberty Tonight and Culturama are on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, 7 to 11. Tuesdays is Culturama at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Daniela Pensack, she's our Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. And we've got the Liberty Tonight boys and King of Libertarian. They are so fun. They are so funny. And their content is so clever and unique and original. You won't see it anywhere but here on the 4 Liberty Network. So why don't you go ahead and give them a follow now? And if you can't watch their shows live on Thursday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time, then just watch the playback, because lots of the content's evergreen. It's fun and it's funny. It's original. There are no kings, but the king of all libertarians, Liberty Tonight. Check him out in the chat or just rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. In Canada, they were joining the No Kings protest, but in Canada they had to change it because Canada has a king. Womp womp. Canadians joining the No Kings protest had to rename it because Canada has a king. There's still, it's still the UK, it's still Great Britain. If you believe the No Kings protests were organic, think again. Christy Walton, the Walmart heiress, has publicly funded a full New York Times advertisement promoting the No Kings protests nationwide. A lot of money. And beyond that, the protests appear to be largely organized by a broad coalition of over 100 advocacy groups, including Indivisible, the American Federation of Teachers, more on that later, ACLU, Black Lives Matter, Communication Workers of America, and many local groups under the grassroots 50501 movement banner. That needs to be investigated ASAP. Mr. Trump. And speaking of great memes made by Brad posted this one yesterday, and may I say it was a doozy. Woke up this morning, still no king. You did it, libs. That was a really good meme, Brad. Really good meme. Look at Austin simping for Trump. How libertarian, writes Casey is the town in jail. Truth is, he's doing it because if he didn't, he would have to find a real job. True. Why would I have a real job when I could produce documentaries sit on my ever-expanding tuchus, talking to a microphone, hang out with my beautiful redheaded daughter all day long, and having an absolute blast hanging out with the most beautiful, sexy, brilliant people in the whole country and also the Isle of Alderney. But my audience on the Wake Up America show, I do it for you guys. And because, God bless it, it's a great job. And certainly it's a dream come true. And why? Sure, this is America. Aren't we allowed to try and live our American dreams? What do you want me to do? Slave away in a factory somewhere, pushing out boxes? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? What if there was no Wake Up America show? I know some of you want to make sure that it happens. That's why you just went to forlibertyshop.com and you bought yourself a Bomb Pop Popsicle earrings. Yep, there you go. Get them while they're hot, because once they're gone, they're gone. The For Liberty shop is going to be getting rid of our Bomb Pop earrings. So and all of our earrings essentially. So if you do want some, let's unlock that bonus content. Looks like we've raised about $46 towards our $75 goal. This is fantastic, and certainly we all owe Joel a big debt of gratitude. And Quest Fanning, I saw you drop that buck in there earlier, brother. I appreciate you very much. The same crowd shouting Trump is a king, suing the hell out of him, and winning many of these court cases to stop President Trump's executive orders. At the Salt Lake City No Kings protest, one protester allegedly grabbed a rifle and fired at another member of the proletariat. The protest's own peacekeepers. Yeah, they have their own little paramilitary cosplay crew. They pulled the guns on him. And then they shot at him instead, but they hit and they killed an innocent man. This is what happens when people who hate the police decide to become the police. Womp womp. All cops are bastards. And look, I thought that if we got rid of the police, we would get rid of all of the innocent citizens, all the innocent civilians would not die. No innocent civilians would die if we didn't have a proper, lawful police guarding the streets and protecting us from these monsters. And here's the thing, and I know my anarchist friends are going to be mad, but this is lawless anarchy on the street. This is what these people want. They want lawless anarchy on the streets. If we didn't use the firm, strict hand of the government and get that palm nice and greasy before we, or maybe the dildo of consequences should arrive unlubricated, as it often does. These people, we have to sit on them. They're mutants. You can't always judge a book by its cover, but if you see somebody who's in a dirty, nasty, dressed in rags, is pretty much toothless, and is holding a sign and has her hair all these wild colors and all those things, it's fair to assume you might be dealing with a homicidal, psychopathic, authoritarian maniac. Physiognomy checks out. They're lunatics. They're lunatics. And they're stupid hypocrites. Here's the protest in London from yesterday.
The Keir Starmer hopes Trump will visit this autumn, this year. We must build a movement of movements, a coalition ready to stand up to Trump and show him when he comes to this city, when he comes to this country, who he really is. A tyrant, a fascist. And to show that the people of this country and around the world want to do politics differently. We stand for democracy, we stand for human rights, and for the equality of all. We want to show the UK government that you do not open your arms.
Look at that sign. Everyone is illegal on stolen land. The funniest part about this is the protest in London is that London does in fact still have a king today. Oh yes, congratulations to the Unruh family. They had their second child born this last week. Congratulations, Matt Unruh and Robin Unruh, beautiful baby boy. We wish you the best. So I'm laughing at this protest in London. Everyone is illegal on stolen land. What is this land acknowledgement thing? Right? And it's funny too, because they'll call Israel colonizers, or the United States will call them colonizers. But then they'll say Mexico, oh, you stole the land from Mexico, you colonizers. But I'm pretty sure Mexico is 100% the result of colonization. Why are the people in Mexico speaking Mexican? Wait a minute, Austin. Hold on. I'm getting something in my ear. Oh no, they don't speak Mexican. They're speaking Spanish. They're speaking Spanish. Does anybody know where Spain is? Like, pick out of the continent of Spain. Oh, there it is. There's 6 continents, and then the 7th one is Spain. If you went and asked these people, not the Europeans, they know geography. Americans don't. Especially not the libturds. Oh my God. The land acknowledgements get me more than a lot of these things. Nothing says peacekeeping like neon vests and untrained vigilantes playing Call of Duty with live ammo. Randy Weingart, following the deadly No Kings Day of Rage, sponsored by Randy Weingarten, the teachers union president was forced to resign from her DNC leadership role.
You are the community to this president's chaos. And together, we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thank you, Norm. We appreciate that. You got to have the Norm MacDonald button on standby. She is the epitome of Karen, says Dad Bod Baboon. Damn straight. Hold on, I gotta get this video queued. I got a million billion clips. Oh, here we go. Now look at this beautiful Nubian queen who showed up to the protest.
Don't be mad, her president. What? Get off the plantation. White people come off the plantation. Get off the plantation.
Now see, this looks like a woman who has taken a shower today. First of all, she's beautiful. Second of all, I bet even the groypers who complain about race mixing and say it's dysgenic and are like total racist, they absolutely would.
Don't be mad,
They
president.
would. And twice on Sundays. Don't pretend like they wouldn't. I know many of you, being libertarians, you absolutely would.
Get off the plantation. White people come off the plantation. Get off the plantation.
Look, she got those American flag socks on there. Girl, we need to get those in the For Liberty shop, man. I want her outfit, not to wear, but for the lady. Damn, those shorts, man. That girl can get it. Get them, girl. Trump won. Get over it. She said you'll vote Democrat every time. Trump won. Get over it. Get them, lady. Viva Palestine, dude. Look at it. Okay, so first of all, physiognomy check. Can we get a physiognomy check? Brad, you're going to have to cut a lot of clips from this show today because it's been pretty damn funny, wouldn't you admit? Okay, look at this beautiful Nubian queen here with her thigh-high socks. I mean, she is looking just sexy. And then here come the libs, okay? So get this in your mind. Look at this beautiful woman. And then here come the libs. And let's do a physiognomy check here. And let's do a physiognomy check, weight check, height. Look at that angry Latina. That's what AOC is going to look like in like 5 to 7 years. She's going to be an abuelita. I'm angry and I'm pear-shaped. Muffin top Mexican. Disengage. Wait a minute. Check that physiognomy check. Can we get a physiognomy check on the security guards here? Look at these ladies here. There's a disengage. Continue to worship the capital. Turn east, face towards the light, the sun, the government. Like, look at that. There she is right there. No man wanted her in high school. In college, she could only get the lowest of the low. She was a hippie. This is a woman who casts spells. Unironically, she probably, like, for Halloween, she likes to go to Salem, Massachusetts, and she got cast into her high school production of The Crucible, but she didn't get the lead role. So she made like racist remarks about Tituba. Would she be like, Tituba no do bad thing in The Crucible? She would be the first one to use the N-word, but she didn't want everybody to know.
It's low vibration.
It's low vibration. See what's called hippies.
What the other Democrats do for y'all? Nothing.
What is a high vibration? If that's a low vibration, what is a high vibration? I don't know. I just think that this shit's hilarious. We've got two amazing guests for you today. We haven't quite unlocked the bonus content yet, although we are getting very close. We've raised about $55 towards the $75 goal, so all we got to do is raise $20 to $25 to finish up the Wake Up America show's bonus content unlock, which means that you get to watch that instead of commercials. We're 8 minutes away from a commercial break, or well, we're just like a few minutes away from it, like three minutes away or so from a commercial break. So if you guys want to watch the bonus content instead of the commercials before we bring on our next guest, make those Rumble Rant donations right now. If we hit a 20, that's all we need. And then if we go to forlibertyshop.com and buy a pair of earrings before they're out of the store, that's all we need. That would unlock the bonus content. So head over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number for libertyshop.com. We're so grateful that we have sponsors on the Wake Up America show, like the Connector app, who stepped in to support the Wake Up America show financially and want us to share with you about a great new product that they're offering that you can access today, right now, totally free at connector.app. That's connector.app. Connector app is a map. It's a map-based social networking. It's designed to help you level up your life and to connect with people deliberately. If you've been saying to yourself, I'm tired of scrolling and doom scrolling and watching content that makes me feel bad, it's because you're either A, not watching the Wake Up America show, or B, you need to go out and touch grass. And the best way to do it is to find a peer group. I'm a scuba diving guy. That's one of my hobbies. I also like video games in my spare times. I like to play poker. I like to goof around. I like to go canoeing. If I want to make a friend group to do so, let's say next time I go to Florida, I can connect with people on a map because I know where they'll live. I'll have a better chance of finding people who are interested in the same things that I'm interested. You could receive money in a crypto wallet. You could read blogs from your contacts, get information about events before they happen, even while you're traveling. And if you're an early adopter like me, you'll get a 5% revenue share from their cryptocurrency every month in the future, created by libertarians so you can get back to reality, not in app stores. Go to connector.app in your browser to make a profile today. That's connector.app, connector.app. Thank you very much to the Connector app for sponsoring the Wake Up America show. We're very grateful. And Captain Tight Pants for sponsoring the show. Says, shout out to my buddy Shelby, who I just found out watches the show. Shelby. Yeah, I think, yep. We appreciate that. So yeah, we're about $15 raised to unlock the bonus content, but we haven't hit it yet, which means it's a commercial break time. But I tell you what, I'll make you a little deal. If we hit during the commercial break the $15 minimum, I'll go ahead and flip right over to the bonus content right in the middle of commercials, so you guys can watch that instead because it's way more fun, and it's a way to support the show. Thank you to everyone who's already done so, and we'll see you guys on the flippity flip when we get back with John Miltimore to discuss the conflict brewing between Israel and Iran. Should the United States get involved? Yay, nay, let us know. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with founding flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. Danielle Nosey wasn't there when heavily armed immigration and customs enforcement, ICE agents, swarmed her favorite Italian restaurant, arrested 4 employees, and fired off flashbang grenades at protesters who tried to stop them. But in the days since the raid at Buona Forchetta in the cute and trendy South Park neighborhood of San Diego, she's been thinking about how she would explain the incident to her kids. She has yet to come up with a satisfactory answer for herself. I have no idea what I would say to them. Oh, they're taking away bad people. They're not. Nazi, a 41-year-old mother of 2, tells me as she waits to pick up a pizza on Wednesday night. Like other workplace raids carried out in recent weeks by ICE, this one seems to signal a shift in the Trump administration's tactics and an escalation of its deportation efforts. The White House has reportedly ordered ICE to expand its targets beyond gang members and violent criminals and to go after day laborers and other workers peacefully trying to earn a living despite their lack of legal status. That means more confrontations like the one that happened here, and more difficult questions about why immigration enforcers are busting into a restaurant in riot gear and face masks. They made a public show of it, and I think they're doing it for a reason, to try to incite people and try to get a reaction, says Nosey. Buona Forchetta is buzzing and crowded on Wednesday night, with a steady stream of patrons waiting for tables on the awning-covered patio or picking up orders from the to-go window around the corner. Everyone I spoke with had heard about the raid and seen footage of it on the news or social media, and many said they'd come to Buona Forchetta as a show of support for the restaurant, a low-key form of resistance, it would seem. That includes Diana Ashab, 43, who was waiting for a table with Brian Atkins. She plans to attend one of the larger protests planned for Saturday and says raids like the one that happened here should underline the importance of speaking up. Just because they are illegal doesn't mean they are criminals, Ashab says. It's such a waste of taxpayers' money when there are real problems to solve. Atkins chimes in that politicians who break the law aren't hauled out of their workplaces and arrested on the street. The 4 people arrested in the raid at Buona Forchetta were servers and dishwashers, according to local news reports. The warrant authorizing the raid accused the restaurant of knowingly employing both illegal immigrants and individuals not authorized to work in the United States, and cited a tip to federal authorities from November 2020. A follow-up investigation launched in January 2025, just after President Donald Trump took office, ultimately led to the raid after officials from the Department of Homeland Security determined that some workers at the restaurant were using counterfeit green cards, the San Diego Union Tribune reported. Photos and videos posted to social media show the raid and its aftermath, including ICE agents detonating flashbang grenades to clear the crowd that gathered to oppose the arrests. The incident went viral shortly afterward when Sean Elo Rivera, a Democratic San Diego City councilman, posted a photo of the ICE agents with the word terrorists scrawled across it, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller responded by hurling an accusation of left-wing domestic terrorism at Elo Rivera. In a statement, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, a Democrat, said, "Federal actions like these are billed as a public safety measure, but it had the complete opposite effect. On Wednesday night, there are lingering remnants of the raid and the subsequent protest. An electrical box on the sidewalk outside the restaurant now sports a prominent 'Fuck ICE' sticker. A poster attached to a post across the street offers legal assistance to anyone affected by the raid. But those things seem somewhat out of place amid the craftsman homes and manicured landscaping of the South Park neighborhood. On the 3 street corners opposite Buona Forchetta sit a yoga studio, a boutique gym, and a cocktail bar. Families with children and numerous dogs are out and about on this Wednesday night. Nothing about the neighborhood suggests that it is besieged by criminal gangs or the sort of violence that might require the heavy hand of federal law enforcement. Given those surroundings, It's probably not a surprise that nearly everyone I spoke with was dismayed or upset by the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. I think it just puts a lot of fear in people, especially the hardworking people who are doing nothing wrong, says Alyssa Ashmore, a 28-year-old software engineer who is waiting for a to-go order. It kind of feels distant when you see it on the news sometimes, but then when you see it in a place where you live, she says, it reality checks. But that opinion was not unanimous. If you're illegal or you overstayed your visa, it's time to go, said Dylan Roman, a 32-year-old member of the Navy who has lived in the area for 8 months. That's just the way it is. Nosy said she was surprised to see the raid happening here, in a neighborhood she described as a quintessential melting pot, full of families and small businesses. If it could happen in South Park, it could happen anywhere, she says. And probably it is happening anywhere.
3 residences. Yeah, I do. I live here in Burlington, Vermont. We live in a middle-class neighborhood. Nice house. Guess what? I'm a United States Senator, and I own a home in Washington, D.C., as do most senators. You know, you live there year after year. When I first went to, actually, when I was in Congress for 16 years, I rented all the time. But I got elected. Okay, got a 6-year term. You know what? Let's buy a house. So we bought a house. And guess what? Like many thousands of people in the state of Vermont, I have a summer camp. It's a nice one on Lake Champlain. That's it.
A summer camp? Like you have a whole summer camp? Is that some... Listen, I don't know a lot of people from Vermont, but I would assume that owning a summer camp in Vermont would be a fairly rare thing to say. You know what? I have no clue. Sometimes I need to bring in the experts. The expertise that they bring to the Wake Up America show gets me through when I feel stupid, because obviously Bernie Sanders is smarter than all of us. He's managed to make a career in using capitalism while advocating against it his entire life. Joining us now to discuss is the man they call Mr. Capitalism, John Miltimore from the American Institute of Economic Research, joining us live this morning. What's up, Mr. C?
Morning, AP. Good to be with you.
Glad to have you here on a Monday with Miltimore special. John, talk to me about No Kings. The protests, do you really think that they're about opposing kings, John? Is that the impression that you got from these type of people?
It's not the impression I got. I think if you look, a lot of the people at this protest are fine with kings. They don't like the current king. They don't like things coming out of Washington, D.C., that are these decisions that are being made that go against their interests. You can see they're fine with executive power, but they want their side wielding executive power.
Yeah, it's no kings, right? But they're totally fine bowing to Gavin Newsom, the CDC, right? Wear the masks, arrest people outdoors. These are the people who arrested people for being outdoors during COVID-19, right? Oh, it's the IRS, no problem. Or if it's a teachers union rep named Deborah who thinks she's God because she once read a book on equity. They don't want to abolish kings. They want to be the kings, right, John?
No, it's exactly right. This is why, I think as a country, you can probably say for about the last 100 years or so, we lost the idea of republicanism. And I don't mean it as in the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party has strayed from that idea as well. But it's the idea that we have, a small group of elected officials that actually, collaborate, discuss, pass laws in that way. Today, most people, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, support the executive doing things that were clearly extra constitutional when it comes to the original idea of the Constitution, or the bureaucratic state doing it. And we've seen both of these things in recent years. Federal agencies saying, no, you must do this. Presidents saying you must do this. All this unilateral action from executives. We had Biden doing it with student loans, saying I'm gonna forgive you of these student loans, or Trump doing unilateral action with tariffs, saying it's an emergency, and I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to do this unilaterally without input from Congress, because we're getting cheated, so we're going to retaliate with our own tariffs. Strain from that conception of republicanism, where lawmakers actually have to disagree, where the machinery of government works more slowly and deliberately. That's a good thing. That's not a flaw in our system. That was always the way that the system was intended to be. But today we have bureaucracies and executive leaders doing these things, and it's making our lives worse.
I was reading some of the articles about the No Kings protests over the weekend. The Louisville retirement community residents held a protest in support of No Kings. The average age of the protest was around 85. That makes sense. It is a retirement community. But also in Falls Church, Virginia, the average age at the No Kings protest was 72. Many of the other photographs that came out showed what appeared to be a demographic that's in decline. Advanced decline. Did you notice that the protesters at many of these events, a lot of these anti-Trump protests and the No Kings protests, did you notice that the average age was fairly on the high end of the spectrum here, John?
It's funny, I didn't, but I probably saw different footage than you. Like the ones I saw were sort of like what you think about those sort of left-wing progressives in college with, long hair and hippies and things. That the footage I saw was more in that vein. But they were a lot of overwhelmingly, white crowds. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative sense. Even it was just something I noticed. But this is I commented to this yesterday with a friend. After we had a baseball tournament yesterday, and everybody got together afterwards, and this came up, and I said, this is something the right can't compete with the left on this. That the left enjoys nothing more than protesting, and it's really baked into the idea of Marxism. If you read the Communist Manifesto, Marx was his whole mentality was rebel against everything, and he wanted to be in a constant state of revolt against the status quo. And it's my theory. That's why leftists love to protest so much. Like they look at the world outside. They have a utopian vision of how the world should be. And they'll always find an excuse to rebel against that, whether it's No Kings or whether it's some conflict that they probably couldn't find on a map, whether it's people not having universal health care, whether it's people having the right to own their own firearms. They will always find an excuse to rebel against the status quo and say the world is not well, we will fix it. And it's a lot of political theater.
It sounds like a libertarian anti-war protest. No offense.
I don't think libertarians protest nearly as well. And I say that I believe there is a time to assemble and protest. I think for the left, it's more of a sport. Like they love getting together, and they're supercharged by politics. I would say that the danger is the right is supercharged by political action. And I think that is a danger for our country when both sides live and breathe politics. If you look, our country was not like this 30, 40, 50 years ago. We had periods of this, right? Don't get me, but we're in a constant state now of political rage. And this will not serve our country well. It's going to make us more divided. But the good thing is, if you look, it is a small number of people. The majority of people, they don't want to be doing this. They want to go to work. They want to spend time with their families.
They don't want to have to run over a protester in the street in order to get to their office place. I get it, but 100%. Earlier my joke about libertarian utopianism and protests that end up doing nothing. That was my attempt to segue into discussion. Israel has delivered a powerful blow to parts of Iran's nuclear program, but it hasn't yet taken out the most heavily protected of Iran's nuclear sites, leaving Tehran a potential path to the bomb. On the one hand, John, I don't want the United States to get more involved in a Middle Eastern war. It's been nothing but Middle Eastern wars my entire adult life. On the other hand, I'm not going to pretend like Israel taking out Iran's nuclear facilities is something I'm going to cry about or feel terrible about or pretend like it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing whenever countries that shout death to America have their war-making capacity reduced. That's just pure pragmatism in my mind in terms of survival. But I imagine maybe you have a different take.
Maybe not as different as you think. I think this is a very difficult thing. And I will say we're kind of entering the worst case scenario that I feared after those October 7th attacks. My fear was Israel was going to respond forcefully, aggressively, and they have. And that has been, devastating. You can say, some people would say that's good. Other people would say that's bad. It has been devastating. About 60,000 civilian deaths, but half of those, maybe slightly more than half, are women and children. And in turn, we see this boiling over in the Middle East. All that said, Since 1979, it's been the official position of the Iranian government that Israel should not exist. And if I live in Israel, I would not be comfortable with this country next to me who says we don't have a right to be here, we don't have a right to exist. That's their official policy. I would not be comfortable with them having nuclear ambitions, developing nuclear capabilities. So
I mean, if you were Israeli and you had a position in their government, would you, if asked to sign off on a black op like this to take out their nuclear facility, would you sign off on such an operation if you were Israeli?
I would have to be convinced that Iran is close to developing these weapons, and that is something I will say. I don't think you and I know the answer to that. And if you go back, Netanyahu was talking in 1998 that Iran is just about ready to be a nuclear power, and we're talking that's almost 30 years ago, and there has been this pattern. If Iran is close to a nuclear weapon, or the ability to create nuclear weapons, as we're told, I would do that, because I could not put the lives of millions of people at stake. If I would have to take Iran at its word, and if Iran says we don't think you have the right to exist, I can't let that country drop a bomb on us.
Well, that's a much more pragmatic foreign policy, a realistic view of foreign policy than I hear from most libertarians, John. Because most of what I hear from libertarians sort of echoes the Antifa left, sort of like hippie style of libertarianism that is, I guess, more associated with Howard Zinn's view of the United States and Israel as aggressors. They are the ultimate evil. Winston Churchill was the primary bad guy of World War II. And therefore, these evil colonizer imperialist nations like the United States and Israel, everything that they do is wrong, and for the purpose of murdering every Arab baby that exists in the Middle East. That's the normal. That's the standard libertarian view of foreign policy. But what you have articulated to me is not that. But what you have articulated is not in the majority held opinions of American libertarians, at least from what I can tell online.
Oh, that might be the case, and I will say, like I always have considered myself. I believe in good principles, but I'm also a pragmatist, and I will say we need to separate though what Israel should do in what they have the right to do from what the United States should be doing, and this is a conflict. I've everything we're doing internationally, I would like to see the United States doing less. And I do worry that our support here could pull us into this conflict. And I think that would be a very detrimental thing for Americans. Israel has the right to do this, to prevent a nuclear power adjacent to them. That means that says that they shouldn't exist.
Yeah. I hate that the United States is involved
doing this.
Yeah, I hate that the United States is involved. As a matter of fact, I think it's a mistake for the United States to be dictating to Israel what their policy should be, because I see this morning that allegedly President Trump denied Israel the ability to assassinate the leader of Iran. And in my sense, the thing is about like the political assassination thing is, I know people get really, really tough about it, but it's like, rather than bombing the downtown metropolises where people are shopping and there happens to be a weapons manufacturer next door and you kill thousands of civilians, why not just off with the head of the king? Well, isn't it better to just take out the political leadership? I mean, listen, maybe people know more about military policy than I do, but what I'm tired of seeing is all these wars, and the only person that you can't attack is the person who started the war in the first place, it seems, you know?
I understand why people say that. There's a certain utility, to that, right? There's a utilitarian end to that, saying, hey, instead of killing 100,000 people, we're just going to do one. That will open up its own Pandora's box. Once you start to green light political assassinations, I think you invite the same thing on yourself. And suddenly then we do have our own lawmakers and leaders that could be, subject to the same type of thinking.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to like celebrate. I already said that I'm for it. You don't have to sell it to me, John. Just kidding. For my NSA handlers who are listening, I don't want Nancy Pelosi to be killed by the leader of Iran. That's definitely going in my file, John. But yeah, try not to sell it so heavily, John. Continue.
I will say the point is the United States has to some extent invited this because our relationship with Israel has been so close. We've heard it called the special relationship. That I mean, if you look, what kind of fighters were going in there to perform these attacks on Iran? They were F-35s, right? We are intertwined with Israel in a way that now Iran will. I don't think they see a difference between Israel and the United States so much, and that is because our policies have been so intertwined. This is something I think it's prudent, and this is not just Trump. It's Trump, Biden. All previous administrations have kind of bought into this, that we have this responsibility to play over there, and it will invite retaliation when Iran is able to do that. I hope it doesn't, involve retaliation on our soil. I do hope that this is something. If you listen to Trump's rhetoric, at least he's out of one side of his mouth, at least, he's really trying to kind of tamp down the tensions that we're seeing. I hope this is resolved. This is a dangerous situation, and it could spiral out of control very quickly. Let's hope that Iran and Israel are able to come to some sort of agreement, and that this doesn't escalate further.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think we should do our best to try and stay out of this to the greatest extent possible. It is a shame that our tax dollars seem to be funding this. There is the libertarian joke that somehow we seem to be having funding, American funding goes to both sides of conflicts, and then we're, essentially funding both sides. In this situation, when it comes to Iran, the United States does not fund Iran directly, but instead what we do is we unfreeze assets that have been frozen since 1979, which just leads me to wonder, the international accounting system, I mean, it's such a grift. Because they don't just seize the assets entirely. I mean, they're going to just unfreeze assets that already belong to Iran. Well, if you can freeze the assets and take them away at any time, first of all, why wouldn't you take them? Second of all, why would you unfreeze them? You know what it reminds me of is that there are some things that are bigger than war. John, maybe you remember this story from World War II. We were drinking Fanta over the weekend, and I was like, this is a beverage tied to the Nazis. And everybody was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, Fanta, it's named after fantasy. And the Germans during the war, they lost the ability to manufacture Coca-Cola. And so they made their own cola named Fanta, and that's where Fanta came from during World War II. So it wasn't like tied to the Nazis, but during World War II. But what I found fascinating about that story, John, is that there are some things that are more powerful than international war. There was one thing that is more powerful than international global war, and that is copyright and trademark. Because wouldn't you think that the German bottling plant would just say, oh, we're at war with you anyway, we're just going to continue to manufacture Coca-Cola? But they were so terrified of the patent lawyers. Talk about powerful Jews. The patent lawyers were more powerful than the entire, Wehrmacht and the United States. So everybody fears copyright and patent lawyers, apparently, John.
That's wild. I did not know that's where Fanta came from. So that's an anecdote I'd never heard before. So yeah, and it does amaze me that German lawyers cared that much about it that they actually said, we're not going to manufacture Coke. We're going to create our own drink here.
Yeah, so international copyright protection. For the lawyers that Coca-Cola has to enforce their patent is more powerful than the German Wehrmacht, than the SS, than Hitler's. They were like, well, we're going to invade Europe, but we won't violate Coca-Cola's trademark. We'll make our own Fanta.
It's interesting you say this, though, because this isn't related to war so much, but most of the people I talk to about the Liberation Day tariffs, they defend those not because they like tariffs, but it's mostly because China is violating U.S. IP in these different ways. And they're not wrong, right? Like China has for a long time found ways to skirt around IP. I think there's better ways to bring China to heel on that, and I think those are things I try to explain. But they're not wrong, and it's a big deal, right? When you have a lot of money at stake for people that are creating products, and then China is going through the back door and not honoring these. I think there's pressure we can put on China, without resorting to retaliatory tariffs. But it does show, it makes your point that IP is incredibly powerful, and getting all these countries today to comply to that is more difficult. I would say
it's one of the major conflicts between the United States and China is how they rip off our intellectual property, which, if you're an anarchist like the Stephen Kinsella types, the one thing they hate more than anything is the idea of intellectual property. And so that's another issue which divides libertarians, like abortion, like war, like everything. You can come up with a libertarian argument to justify anything, it seems, John. But the Wake Up America show is a 2-hour show that stands for the principles of liberty. That's why we bring John Miltimore on Mondays. We call it Mondays with Miltimore. And we got to get back in the habit. John, what have you been up to these days?
Man, I got 3 kids, and we're in the middle of summer sports right now. So like that, a lot of that was just family stuff. But at AIER, we're cranking out good stuff. I got a new story up today. If you want to go to thedailyeconomy.org, on this Brown University student who was expelled for exposing the sheer size of the bureaucratic state at his university. Brown got all mad, launched an investigation, accused him of trademark infringement, forget this, because he mentioned the university in the headline of a story. So the student Alex Shee has found himself at the center of a maelstrom, and what's interesting though is all it did is bring more and more attention to his cause. He, for exposing all this bloat at U.S. universities, and he actually testified before Congress last week. So check out that story; it's a good one.
We'll do it. John Miltimore, you can follow him over on X at Miltimore79. That's Miltimore. We need some more Miltimore. John, we appreciate you, bud. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the show.
Hey, thanks for being great to be with you, AP. Have a good one this week.
Thanks. You too. Running them down in the streets. I'm sorry, but if you start beating on people's vehicles, then you ought to have the right to just mow them down. Chinga madre. Well, you just wrote Chinga madre on there, and you're flying the Mexican flag. Look at that. Hey, chinga madre! Viva la libertad. They're not shouting Viva la libertad carajo, I'll tell you that much. Now back over them. Just in, after some investigation, it was actually found out that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was behind the No Kings protests. In a comment, he said, "I finally got those obese libturds to walk a mile. They should be thanking me." Thank you, Base Bandita. Miss Vega 8888 over at X.com. Is that 8888? Is that another like Hitler reference? Speaking of Hitler.
Donald Trump is America's Hitler.
Yeah. Oh, come on. No, Eric Swalwell. No. No, Eric Swalwell. No.
Donald Trump is America's Hitler.
Come back on, man. Get over it, please. Yeah, let's hear Eric Swalwell with a little more nuance, maybe.
And I have been completely floored by regular people who tell me this does not look like America. Show your faces. And I think as Democrats, I've heard from enough colleagues that when we're in the majority, when it comes to ICE enforcements, we are going to require them to show their faces for the safety of every American. But also, if you're not doing anything wrong and you're standing on the law, you shouldn't have anything to hide.
That's Eric Swallowswell. Who gave me that joke in the chat? Buck's Nasty. Ooh, Buck's Nasty. People call me Wheezy, but Hey, we're going to speak to Ian Howarth here in a little bit more than 5 minutes. You don't want to miss it. Make sure that you are liked and followed. If you are watching the first time today, make sure you click the follow button over at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. That's where all the chat is. All of the big fun people are hanging out at the Rumble page at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. If you're watching us anywhere else, you should be watching us over here with people like Drew Van Runkle, Bucks Nasty with his nasty jokes, Joni Rankin, Mighty Megatron, Dad Bod Baboon, BB for Liberty, and a million billion other friends hanging out in the chat. Like Decision Points. Decision, you got to tell them how much fun we had on Friday night in the Freedom Arcade. We're going to definitely do that again. I want a repeat of the Friday night show, Freedom Arcade, at 8 p.m. Central on Friday night, right here on this Rumble channel. We play video games with our fans. We were on Discord. We were all hanging out. We were playing Warzone. We were all squatting up. We had everybody in the chat. Then we played Jackbox party games. It went for like 3 hours. It was an absolute blast. Decision Points, a.k.a. John. Glad to see you again here in the chat this morning. We're going to speak to Ian Howarth here in 5 minutes about this.
You stop short of killing Iran's civilian leaders, just military commanders. I mentioned nuclear scientists, but not the supreme leader, Khamenei. There is a Reuters report just moving saying that President Trump in the last couple of days vetoed an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, according to 2 U.S. officials. Is that true?
You got to love that eyeglass taking off with Brett Baer right there. That's what I would do if I was like the host, because I can't see anymore now. I'm 44 years old. I'm like Brett Baer. You know, you got to get those readers out. So if that's what I was doing, I would milk the eyeglasses. I need to get some here for the Wake Up America show. What do you guys think? Hold on. Hey, mama, don't you treat me wrong. Come and love your daddy all night long. Oh, yeah.
Actually, there's so many false reports of conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that. But I can tell you, I think that we do what we need to do. We'll do what we need to do. And I think the United States knows what is good for the United States, and I'm just not going to get...
That's just a whole lot of nothing, Netanyahu. Come and love your daddy all night long. All right. Oh, yeah. All right now. Tell me what I say. Tell me what I say. We'll be right back with Ian Howarth to discuss the Israel and Iran bit. It'll be totally serial. No joking around when talking about World War III. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on what? What? The For Liberty Network. Oh, yeah.
When heavily armed immigration and customs enforcement, ICE agents, swarmed her favorite Italian restaurant, arrested 4 employees, and fired off flashbang grenades at protesters who tried to stop them. But in the days since the raid at Buona Forchetta in the cute and trendy South Park neighborhood of San Diego, she's been thinking about how she would explain the incident to her kids. She has yet to come up with a satisfactory answer for herself. I have no idea what I would say to them. Oh, they're taking away bad people. They're not. Nazi, a 41-year-old mother of 2, tells me as she waits to pick up a pizza on Wednesday night. Like other workplace raids carried out in recent weeks by ICE, this one seems to signal a shift in the Trump administration's tactics and an escalation of its deportation efforts. The White House has reportedly ordered ICE to expand its targets beyond gang members and violent criminals and to go after day laborers and other workers peacefully trying to earn a living despite their lack of legal status. That means more confrontations like the one that happened here, and more difficult questions about why immigration enforcers are busting into a restaurant in riot gear and face masks. They made a public show of it, and I think they're doing it for a reason, to try to incite people and try to get a reaction, says Nosy. Buona Forchetta is buzzing and crowded on Wednesday night, with a steady stream of patrons waiting for tables on the awning-covered patio or picking up orders from the to-go window around the corner. Everyone I spoke with had heard about the raid and seen footage of it on the news or social media, and many said they'd come to Buona Forchetta as a show of support for the restaurant, a low-key form of resistance, it would seem. That includes Diana Ashab, 43, who was waiting for a table with Brian Atkins. She plans to attend one of the larger protests planned for Saturday and says raids like the one that happened here should underline the importance of speaking up. Just because they are illegal doesn't mean they are criminals, Ashab says. It's such a waste of taxpayers' money when there are real problems to solve. Atkins chimes in that politicians who break the law aren't hauled out of their workplaces and arrested on the street. The 4 people arrested in the raid at Buona Forchetta were servers and dishwashers, according to local news reports. The warrant authorizing the raid accused the restaurant of knowingly employing both illegal immigrants and individuals not authorized to work in the United States, and cited a tip to federal authorities from November 2020. A follow-up investigation launched in January 2025, just after President Donald Trump took office, ultimately led to the raid after officials from the Department of Homeland Security determined that some workers at the restaurant were using counterfeit green cards, the San Diego Union Tribune reported. Photos and videos posted to social media show the raid and its aftermath, including ICE agents detonating flashbang grenades to clear the crowd that gathered to oppose the arrests. The incident went viral shortly afterward when Sean Elo Rivera, a Democratic San Diego City councilman, posted a photo of the ICE agents with the word terrorists scrawled across it, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller responded by hurling an accusation of left-wing domestic terrorism at Elo Rivera. In a statement, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, a Democrat, said, "Federal actions like these are billed as a public safety measure, but it had the complete opposite effect. On Wednesday night, there are lingering remnants of the raid and the subsequent protest. An electrical box on the sidewalk outside the restaurant now sports a prominent Fuck ICE sticker. A poster attached to a post across the street offers legal assistance to anyone affected by the raid. But those things seem somewhat out of place amid the craftsman homes and manicured landscaping of the South Park neighborhood. On the 3 street corners opposite Buona Forchetta sit a yoga studio, a boutique gym, and a cocktail bar. Families with children and numerous dogs are out and about on this Wednesday night. Nothing about the neighborhood suggests that it is besieged by criminal gangs or the sort of violence that might require the heavy hand of federal law enforcement. Given those surroundings, it's probably not a surprise that nearly everyone I spoke with was dismayed or upset by the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. I think it just puts a lot of fear in people, especially the hardworking people who are doing nothing wrong," says Alyssa Ashmore, a 28-year-old software engineer who is waiting for a to-go order. "It kind of feels distant when you see it on the news sometimes, but then when you see it in a place where you live," she says, "it reality checks." But that opinion was not unanimous. "If you're illegal or you overstayed your visa, it's time to go," said Dylan Roman, a 32-year-old member of the Navy who has lived in the area for 8 months. "That's just the way it is." Nosy said she was surprised to see the raid happening here, in a neighborhood she described as a quintessential melting pot, full of families and small businesses. "If it could happen in South Park, it could happen anywhere," she says. And probably it is happening anywhere.
You stop short of killing Iran's civilian leaders, just military commanders. I mentioned nuclear scientists, but not the supreme leader, Khamenei. There is a Reuters report just moving saying that President Trump in the last couple of days vetoed an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, according to 2 U.S. officials. Is that true?
Actually, there's so many false reports of conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you, I think that we do what we need to do. We'll do what we need to do. And I think the United States knows what is good for the United States. And I'm just not going to get it.
Okay. That's why that guy keeps getting reelected, is because he can say a lot without saying a damn thing. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Click the like button if you haven't already. And if today is your first time watching the show and you enjoy the content, click the follow button as well. You'll get a notification whenever we go live, which is every 5, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the show schedule. Put it in your calendar. Tell all your friends, tell your relatives, tell your family to join us here. Rumble.com/AP4Liberty in the mornings. Israel struck Iran's nuclear program, hitting the centrifuges of Natanz and Isfahan. They're key to their weapon production. Up to 10 Iranian nuclear scientists were killed, womp womp, potentially setting back weapons development for years. Iran's fortified site poses a challenge, however. Destroying it and uranium stocks are key to hindering the weaponization of nuclear material, so there is still a lot of cleaning up left to do. But will the United States get dragged in? Let's talk to Ian Howarth about that. He's a journalist and an author. He's joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Ian. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. Your reaction to Israel's strike on Iran.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's a great thing. I think we're going to get into the weeds of America's involvement, but if we step back and just look at, good guys versus bad guys, a radical jihadist regime that's funding terror across the world, that's killing Americans, that's killing Israelis, that's killing all manner of people, that's killing its own people, raping, torturing, brutalizing its own men, women, and children. Women there are tortured if they show their hair in the street. And so the idea that a country like that should have a nuclear weapon is something we should all oppose. And so I think a country like Israel stepping up and actually defending not just itself, which is what it's doing in this case, but also many other people in the world, I think is a good thing. It's very telling, the reactions we saw from all the people you'd expect, and all of the fear mongering, all of the comparisons to the Iraq War, all of the idea that Israel should just be destroyed. I'm sure we're going to dig into it, but it's a lot of people really showed their stripes this weekend, I think.
The new right would be very triggered by what you just said there, Ian, because they actually see Israel as the aggressor, Israel as the greatest enemy of the United States. They say Israel is the primary problem in the Middle East, and their whole foreign policy is based on the fact that Israel are colonizers, they're aggressors. They initiated this strike as a preemptive strike. And they are the ones who are to be condemned. What would you say to the Jimmy Dores or the Tucker Carlsons of the world who find your worldview repellent and warmongering and neoconservative?
Well, I think first off, it's interesting. I haven't changed my position. Tucker Carlson is the one who's changed his position. There are videos out there of him calling for the destruction of Iran not all that long ago. And so, if the money from Qatar wants to start flowing in, I'm sure other people would change their minds too. I think we're going to look at the idea of Israel being the aggressor. A lot of people are saying this is I think Dave Smith said it's a preemptive war of aggression. Those two things don't really mix. That's really an oxymoronic statement, because preemptive means you are preempting something. If it was just a war of aggression, Israel would have gone after some other random country that wasn't trying to obtain nuclear weapons to, quote unquote, achieve death to America and death to Israel. I mean, Khomeini literally said death to America isn't just a slogan, it's a policy. So we're dealing with people whose goal is to destroy America and destroy Israel. And you're surprised that Israel actually took that seriously. It's very strange. I don't really understand what people expect Israel to do. Obviously, I know what they would want Israel to do, which is basically bend over and take it. But the idea that any country should just sit there and wait for their enemy to achieve nuclear weapon capabilities before you even react is absurd. Why do we arrest people for making violent threats? Do we have to wait until someone comes and stabs you in the face before we do anything? Of course not. You have a right to defend yourself. It's a basic human right, and that's what Israel is doing here. And again, this isn't about Israel. I would expect this of any other sovereign nation. If there was any other country that was being threatened by an enemy constantly, with people in the streets chanting for their destruction, and a country was just obsessed with trying to gain access to nuclear weapons for the purpose of destroying that country, I would expect the targeted countries to react. America would, any country in Europe would. And I think, again, it's just the double standard that only Israel is expected to be nuked before they think about defending themselves.
No, I think I agree with you from a tactical and strategic point. But I think that what's in Israel's best interest may not necessarily always be in the United States' best interest. I've always been very confident that Israel, unleashed from American foreign policy, would probably do what's in Israel's best interest. And the Middle East might be better off, and Israel certainly would be better off for it. But as we've heard, the United States, because we fund Israel, we get to treat them like a redheaded stepchild. And to some extent, I think that there is an obligation to do so, not necessarily because to implement the foreign policy the United States has implemented towards Israel. But when you hear things like the rumor that Brett Baer played right before he spoke to Benjamin Netanyahu, that the United States prevented Israel for now from striking the supreme leader, killing the mullah, you have to wonder, is it really in Israel's best interest to be taking money or weapons from the United States if our sole goal is to hamstring Israel from being able to do what is necessary to defend itself? Because honestly, if you take the king's coin, you sing the king's song. At the end of the day, you may see that you may think it's better for the United States to be funding Israel to support them because they're an ally, but I see it as a double-edged sword in some respect, Ian, and I wonder how you would respond to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think to some extent, this is often a straw man a lot of people like me face because a lot of people say, oh, America shouldn't be funding Israel. It's like, well, if your view is that we shouldn't be funding any other country, I think we can have that discussion. I think in many cases, I agree. I think we should be providing some support to Israel because there is also a benefit to the United States that people just ignore. But there's certainly everything is a double-edged sword, right? That's the problem we had when we talked about the Ukraine war. Not to change the subject, I will come back to Israel. When we talked about the Ukraine war, a big part of the issue was we were sending a blank check with no expectations of anything in return. And with Israel, we're clearly seeing that sometimes there's nothing expected in return, but quite often there is. That, like, we're asking Israel, or the American government rather, is asking Israel to do certain things, to not do certain things. Certainly under the Biden administration, they were very much hamstrung, and to a lesser extent they are under the Trump administration. But the problem is, I obviously don't have the inside scoop on the balance sheets in Israel in terms of the weaponry they have access to and all that kind of thing. So I'm sure they see much more of a benefit in maintaining that relationship with America, not just in terms of resources, but the absolutely gargantuan amount of knowledge sharing that goes on between the two countries that, again, people ignore. I think we all fundamentally understand the idea of sending guns, of sending bullets, of sending bombs, sending planes, or at least trading these things between the two, because a lot of this isn't given to Israel. A lot of it is actually contracts that Israel pays for.
Right, which is
but
why
the amount of knowledge sharing is huge.
Right, which is why, I've been defending Congressman Thomas Massey for the last few weeks from the blistering attacks from the MAGA people because of the refusal to support the big, beautiful bill. But then there are things, legitimate things that I think I disagree with Thomas Massey on, and one of them appears to be the policy towards Israel and the question of the amount of influence that Israel has in the United States, at least relative to other foreign regimes, which are certainly spending a lot of money and doing influence campaigns here in the United States as well. But on the question of Israel and how they spend money here, I mean, that we could go down that rabbit hole, for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I thought it was unfair framing that Thomas Massey had said, should we give weapons to Israel for that one? Because, any libertarian capitalist is going to say, well, give? No, because we're capitalists and we're going to sell them weapons. And I would sell weapons to my friends if they were under attack. I certainly think the United States could do so in some ways. But I mean, again, it's the question of, do you think that there is any strategic interest for the United States to be involved with Israel whatsoever? And I would suggest that there certainly are good tactical and strategic reasons for the United States to be friends with Israel. But I'm one of those libertarians, Ian, who does not think that we should be funding Israel. And I don't think we should be funding Zimbabwe, and I don't think we should be funding Nigeria, and I don't think we should be funding France or Germany or South Africa or China. I'm one of those people who is a pretty strict across the board, don't fund any of them, let them sort it out. But in turn, there are other ways that you can assist your friends. You can sell them weapons. You can also trade intelligence. But I do have a problem with the sort of the strict interventionist view, Ian, which is that the United States taxpayer, not only do we have to be involved, but the U.S. taxpayer also has to pay for it. And then to some extent, if Israel does, or these other countries do commit a blunder or something that is foul or unfair or goes against the interests of the American people, we have, in essence, the taxpayers, U.S. taxpayers, have funded that transgression. And I do find it to be deeply immoral and wrong. How do you respond?
I mean, that's the issue with entangling yourself with any foreign entity, isn't it? Of that you are essentially rolling the dice to some extent. You're placing trust in other countries to make decisions that are going to align with your goals. Again, people obsess over Israel as if Israel is the only country that this could possibly happen with, but this is a across-the-board issue.
Yes.
And I think this is why allegiances matter. This is why our allies matter. That is why trust between allies matter. And I think to some extent, not to blame America on this, because I think it's a bidirectional issue, but that is why when we treat allies in a certain way, almost worse than we treat our enemies, I think then that erodes that trust and make it more likely for countries to say, well, screw you, I'm going to go do what I want. I think for me as well, I try and look at this a bit more broadly. I think the idea of whether we should fund other countries, again, ignoring the fact that a lot of this is actually trade, it's not funding. But there are some things that are worth spending money on and some things that are not. And I think quite often in politics, it's very easy to talk about a binary of we shouldn't fund anything or we should fund everything. I would rather go through the balance sheet and look at each item and say, I think that's worthwhile. I think that's not worthwhile. But I think the problem is, especially online and social media and things like that, we love to say Israel all good, Israel all bad, funding Israel good, funding Israel bad. And of course, everything is more complicated than that.
No, you're right. But the problem, of course, with that mindset is that it's how people who are the Democrats or the Republicans that are members of the true uniparty argue to stop the Doge spending. They say, oh, well, this spending is good and that spending is bad, but everybody has to come to the table to compromise to make a deal. But I mean, the problem that Israel faces in the United States is not that they might lose a hot war or a boots on the ground war. It's that they would lose the war in the media, that they would lose the war in the press, that Israel loses the propaganda war. And I think that there is a real threat of that happening. And not just because the left, of course, being deeply anti-Semitic to its core, has in many ways will always demonize everything Israel does, right? You have your Howard Zinn leftists, and they will always see Israel as a colonial power. They see Jews as proxy white people and have labeled them as oppressors, right? And in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the Jews used to be a group that would be in the favored DEI status, and now because of Israel and because of other issues, they're on the outs with the white, straight males. They've lost their favored status to a certain extent. So it's a lost cause with the left and the propaganda war. But I actually would argue, Ian, that Israel and maybe Judaism as a whole is losing the propaganda war to some extent on the right, where we see these media figures, and I will say that some are anti-Semitic and some may be anti-Semitic and some are absolutely not, with sincere, legitimate criticism of foreign policy. But I think that there is a propaganda war that's going on. And if there is, that Israel is probably losing it, not just on the left entirely, but a little bit to extent on the right. And I wonder if you would agree with that and what you think that remedy might be.
Yeah, I think that my response there is going to be, I think there's a mistake people make when they talk about Israel and when they talk about anti-Semitism, because when you talk about the approach to Israel, you can't talk about one and not the other. The idea that this is all in some ways new, that Israel and Jews were winning the propaganda war right up until October 8th, 2023. I think Israel and anti-Semitism and Jews have been losing the so-called propaganda war for centuries, which is why we've actually run into these problems. We lost the propaganda war, which led to the rise of Nazi Germany, for example. We lost the propaganda war that led to the rise in anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. And I think Israel is losing the propaganda war because the propaganda war is not a fair fight. One, we're up against infinitely more money in the Arab world and the Muslim world and the radical left world. If we look at the amount of money that Qatar is flooding into American institutions, it makes AIPAC look absolutely absurd. It makes AIPAC look like peanuts in terms of the amount of money that's flooding in. And so we talk about this, losing the propaganda war, winning the propaganda war. I don't think there's anything Israel could do to win the propaganda war, because there are a lot of people out there who still believe the 3rd, 4th century blood libel stuff. And they're pushing it in the media. They're intelligent, intellectual people who still think that Israel is essentially killing kids for the fun of it. And so I think that's the problem, is I don't really care about the propaganda war in many ways, because I don't think it's a winnable war. I think we can reach people as the so-called reachable middle. Perhaps you can go after them. But I don't think there is anything Israel or the Jews could do. As a Jewish person, I don't think there's anything I could do to reach all the people out there who think I'm scum, who think I'm essentially vermin, who think that I control the weather. There is nothing I can do to convince those people otherwise.
No,
so
it's true.
It's kind of
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm just guessing. This morning on X, as we are speaking at 8:47 a.m. Central Time here in Jefferson City, it is now trending the phrase "Am Yisrael Chai." And it has to do with Candace Owens, who is partially trending as well, who says is showing one of her hypocrisies. This is something that she had said as she was responding to Israel striking Iran's capital. She says, the most predictable war plausibly ever. She says, I'm so sick of Israel and those who pretend its actions are normal or even remotely justifiable. She says, this country has a bloodlust like no other. Have an issue with this tweet? I literally do not care. Think defending Israel's demonic actions is going to guarantee you a spot in heaven? Double your indulgences and sign your offspring up to die for Netanyahu. Leave the rest of us the hell alone. This is, as well as many other statements on the controversy this morning surrounding Candace Owens. Fascinating, because back in 2020, she tweeted, Iran murdered 63 Canadian citizens in their missile attack and is now legitimately attempting to destroy the evidence, contain the black box, and blame the West. Shame on every single one of you leftist sociopaths that spent the last 2 weeks defending this abhorrent regime. Well, 5 years later, she certainly has had quite a turn of heart. Ian, everybody's changing their minds these days. Your take.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, if you actually look at a lot of the people, I think Ian Carroll is one of those people that sort of just always says follow the money. I think maybe we should follow the money with some of these people. It's laughably absurd. I think the mistake with people like Candace Owens and others, though, is that they made a career telling a certain group what they want to hear. I don't think they necessarily have any beliefs beyond their own fame and their own fortune. And I think for years she was very popular because she was telling the right exactly what they wanted to hear. She was flying to Israel to celebrate the embassy being opened in Jerusalem, which is a good thing. But she was pandering what we saw as a good thing, and now she's trying to go after another audience by flipping on every single issue and then spewing essentially left-wing talking points on Israel. And I think it really shows that we need to be a bit more careful about the people we're following rather than just, oh, they're saying what I like to say and maybe they're ticking some identity politics boxes, so I'm going to fall in love with her. I think she said a lot of ignorant things. She also believed that the Muslim culture in Jerusalem is where all the Muslims had to live.
Oh, God.
So
she said, I mean, I never listened to Candace because, I never listened to Candace because like 10 or 15 years ago, she said that Hitler would have been okay if he had just not invaded Czechoslovakia, if he just tried to keep Germany, make Germany great again. I was like, all right, I don't need to listen to that anymore. So I never fell for the Kanye stuff. I never went for any of that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, Ian, and this is a sad realization, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff that, insider baseball kind of stuff. But I've been experimenting with new types of content recently. And, just to really experiment, I've been doing a lot of A/B testing. What goes viral? What doesn't? What do audiences really want versus what is it that I like and what would I like to produce? And there's quite a big gap between what it is that I like and what the crowds like. I have very eclectic, esoteric tastes, right? And most people, though, they want simple, they want stupid, they want straightforward. And my guess with Candace and maybe some of these other podcasters who have taken these complete 180s on their views is that it's really just all for clicks. They don't really believe any of this. I mean, to some extent, I think she would be even more demonized if she was something less of a grifter. But I think this is really just pure grifterism because what I have noticed is that the stuff that goes viral is the stupidest shit. And yeah, people will get mad. Yeah, people get rage. But whenever you take the dumbest or most contrarian point of view, people think it's genius because they're like, wow, nobody's saying this. Well, yeah, because common sense runs the other way. And you're not used to hearing the retardation on this because everybody else has already figured out the most common sense position on this stuff. And no, actually, that loud minority of swastika loving retards is actually wrong. And they are in the minority for a good reason. But I mean, there is this unfortunate effect that occurs online where we are sort of incentivized to say the most ridiculous thing, post the most ridiculous meme, make the AI slop, make the rage bait. I don't think that Tucker or Candace really believe these things. Maybe Tucker does a little bit, but not Candace. Your take on the grifter side of this.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about Tucker Carlson for a second, I tweeted on multiple occasions that I think he's the most disappointing person on so-called our side because he's clearly very intelligent. He's very talented. He could be so much more. Instead, he's just spewing this slop. I don't think Candace Owens is particularly capable of anything more than what she's doing right now, which is just pure grifting, talking very quickly, and people filling in the blanks to try and make her seem far more intelligent than she is. I think it's all grifting, but I think to some extent, a lot of political commentary can easily go down the route of grifting. Because if you're purely focused on growing that audience, you're going to tailor your message to the platforms you're trying to grow on. And so, for example, on X or Twitter, whatever you like to call it, there is an incentive to be inflammatory, to be as contrarian as possible, to be flirting with Nazi stuff, because that's really what's going viral. Like my big complaint of X in the last year or so is that the For You page is just almost all Nazi stuff. Because why? It's learned that I'm going to try and engage with some of that. I'm going to try and push back on that. It gets me upset. It gets me angry because guess what? Nazis are terrible. And so a lot of it is just people playing into that system. And so do I blame them necessarily? I think they have some responsibility. I think if you have a big platform, you have a responsibility to your audience and to the so-called movement you're pushing. But a lot of it is just the rules of the game they're trying to play with. And I think the fact is that we have systems that reward this kind of behavior. I think monetizing X was one of the worst things for the platform, for example, because you had a direct incentive to put out the worst stuff possible, the clickbaitiest stuff possible. And so I think we're only going down a bad path. We obviously, the answer here is critical thinking. People also say we just need critical thinking, but on a mass level, we're talking about millions of people engaging with this content. You don't need tens of millions, 100 millions of people to agree with you to make an absolute ton of money. You could do pretty well with 10, 50, 100,000 really hardcore fans. And that's what all these people are finding. And so it's pretty concerning, and I don't have a good answer for how we actually address it.
Guilty as charged. 100,000, 106,000 on Twitter, and I do okay. Ian, we always love having your take here on the Wake Up America show. It's always so interesting and unique. Where can people go and find the pure, concentrated, 100% Ian Howarth take on things?
Yeah, well, after complaining about social media, I'm going to direct you all to check out my social media, IGHAWORTH. I promise you, I stay where I think, sometimes that blows up in my face. You can also check out my Substack, same website, IGHAWORTH. I link all my columns there, my syndicated column, my columns for the Washington Examiner. So check them all out over there.
Ian Howarth, you're the man. Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yesterday, I was listening to the podcast about The Godfather. I like to read like the Godfather fan theories and listen to like the explanations on the characters and Mario Puzo in the book. And they were talking about, that part that in The Godfather where the police captain punches Michael Corleone in the stomach, and then later Michael like shoots him in the throat and in the head in the Italian restaurant. It's like his first assassination is one of these police captains. Well, I was listening to the backstory of that police captain, and it told about how he had his rise to power, work and then doing jobs with the mob. And it talked about honest graft. And he said he was a police officer who he didn't take any of the dishonest graft. He only worked in honest graft. Because of course they didn't pay enough, so he thought he deserved it. So he never took any dishonest graft. He just took honest graft. If you enjoy the Wake Up America show this morning, support the Wake Up America show this morning by going to forlibertyshop.com. Speaking of graft, let's talk about grift. It's the grift shop. Exit through the grift shop at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Guys, the grift shop is getting rid of the earring collection, and I know that many of you are very sad about that. Aww. Don't freak out, though. We still have lots of great products. It's just if you guys wanted any of our Liberty earrings, then you better head over there today and get them ASAP, because we're going to take them out of the shop. Number 4libertyshop.com. If you go to 4libertyshop.com, you'll see that the earring collection is at the very tippity top, the flippity flop exclusive Liberty earring collection. Look at all the 5-star reviews that we have. People love the earrings, but they don't really make sense for us to continue to work with the supplier in other ways. So 4libertyshop.com's earring collection is going away. So guess what? You may not be able to see it tomorrow. So if you said to yourself, Austin, I actually really do want some of those earrings to get from my lovely Lady of Liberty, like the ice cream earrings or the libertarian porcupine earrings or the cowgirl Western pistol earrings or the We the People Constitution earrings, those things are about to become limited editions. So what does that mean? That means that nobody's going to find them. You'll have to get them somewhere else because we will not offer them and somebody else might sell them for more. So get them today if you want them. Last chance for Liberty at forlibertyshop.com. Although tomorrow you got one more chance to see me before I take 3 days off to shoot the Battle of Athens. We'll see you guys tomorrow, but maybe not Wednesday and definitely not Thursday and Friday. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
Nosy wasn't there when heavily armed immigration and customs enforcement, ICE agents, swarmed her favorite Italian restaurant, arrested 4 employees, and fired off flashbang grenades at protesters who tried to stop them. But in the days since the raid at Buona Forchetta in the cute and trendy South Park neighborhood of San Diego, she's been thinking about how she would explain the incident to her kids. She has yet to come up with a satisfactory answer for herself. I have no idea what I would say to them. Oh, they're taking away bad people. They're not. Nazi, a 41-year-old mother of 2, tells me as she waits to pick up a pizza on Wednesday night. Like other workplace raids carried out in recent weeks by ICE, This one seems to signal a shift in the Trump administration's tactics and an escalation of its deportation efforts. The White House has reportedly ordered ICE to expand its targets beyond gang members and violent criminals and to go after day laborers and other workers peacefully trying to earn a living despite their lack of legal status. That means more confrontations like the one that happened here, and more difficult questions about why immigration enforcers are busting into a restaurant in riot gear and face masks. They made a public show of it, and I think they're doing it for a reason, to try to incite people and try to get a reaction, says Nosy. Buona Forchetta is buzzing and crowded on Wednesday night, with a steady stream of patrons waiting for tables on the awning-covered patio or picking up orders from the to-go window around the corner. Everyone I spoke with had heard about the raid and seen footage of it on the news or social media, and many said they'd come to Buona Forchetta as a show of support for the restaurant, a low-key form of resistance, it would seem. That includes Diana Ashab, 43, who was waiting for a table with Brian Atkins. She plans to attend one of the larger protests planned for Saturday and says raids like the one that happened here should underline the importance of speaking up. Just because they are illegal doesn't mean they are criminals, Ashab says. It's such a waste of taxpayers' money when there are real problems to solve. Atkins chimes in that politicians who break the law aren't hauled out of their workplaces and arrested on the street. The 4 people arrested in the raid at Buona Forchetta were servers and dishwashers, according to local news reports. The warrant authorizing the raid accused the restaurant of knowingly employing both illegal immigrants and individuals not authorized to work in the United States, and cited a tip to federal authorities from November 2020. A follow-up investigation launched in January 2025, just after President Donald Trump took office, ultimately led to the raid after officials from the Department of Homeland Security determined that some workers at the restaurant were using counterfeit green cards, the San Diego Union Tribune reported. Photos and videos posted to social media show the raid and its aftermath, including ICE agents detonating flashbang grenades to clear the crowd that gathered to oppose the arrests. The incident went viral shortly afterward when Sean Elo Rivera, a Democratic San Diego City Councilman, posted a photo of the ICE agents with the word terrorists scrawled across it, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller responded by hurling an accusation of left-wing domestic terrorism at Elo Rivera. In a statement, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, a Democrat, said, "Federal actions like these are billed as a public safety measure, but it had the complete opposite effect. On Wednesday night, there are lingering remnants of the raid and the subsequent protest. An electrical box on the sidewalk outside the restaurant now sports a prominent 'Fuck ICE' sticker. A poster attached to a post across the street offers legal assistance to anyone affected by the raid. But those things seem somewhat out of place amid the craftsman homes and manicured landscaping of the South Park neighborhood. On the 3 street corners opposite Buona Forchetta sit a yoga studio, a boutique gym, and a cocktail bar. Families with children and numerous dogs are out and about on this Wednesday night. Nothing about the neighborhood suggests that it is besieged by criminal gangs or the sort of violence that might require the heavy hand of federal law enforcement. Given those surroundings, it's probably not a surprise that nearly everyone I spoke with was dismayed or upset by the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. I think it just puts a lot of fear in people, especially the hardworking people who are doing nothing wrong, says Alyssa Ashmore, a 28-year-old software engineer who is waiting for a to-go order. It kind of feels distant when you see it on the news sometimes, but then when you see it in a place where you live, she says, it reality checks. But that opinion was not unanimous. If you're illegal or you overstayed your visa, it's time to go, said Dylan Roman, a 32-year-old member of the Navy who has lived in the area for 8 months. That's just the way it is. Nosy said she was surprised to see the raid happening here, in a neighborhood she described as a quintessential melting pot, full of families and small businesses. If it could happen in South Park, it could happen anywhere, she says. And probably it is happening anywhere.